Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
I have no background in this. I am just a mom who is fired up to protect my child like any other mother out there. And it is a universal push. There is no one path to get there. There's the first step. The step is agreeing to yourself, to making the decision, I'm going to fight for my child, because what's coming down the road is so much bigger than just what's in this moment. I sure up on my values. I speak it, confidently, willing to be, educated if I say the wrong thing. So the point being is, when you speak on that sort of level of truth, the right people at the right place, the right time come into your life.
Samaire Armstrong is an actress and political activist. You know her from a ton of TV shows and movies, including The OC and one of my favorites, Sons of Anarchy. She's currently battling corruption at the highest levels down in Arizona. Thanks for joining me today. I wanted to try to pronounce your name properly, but I chickened out at the last second and went with the safe interpretation. But thanks for coming on.
Wait, your interpretation was so great. It didn't even ring in my head that it was wrong. What did you say?
I said Samaire, but I know it's got like.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I guess I'm so used to it that it's Samira.
Samira. Okay.
Yeah. But to be fair, I wish it was Samaire, because that would make my life so much easier.
For sure. I bet. Now, a lot of people, I think, caught wind of what you were all about a few months ago when you did a video for PragerU. I watched it. I think 500,000 other people at least on YouTube watched it. I want to show a clip of that for the audience just to get started, and then we'll talk about exactly what you're saying in the video. Justin, go ahead, please.
I think nowadays it's different for the sake of being different because it's politically correct. We're going to fit this transgender character in here now that we're PC. Natural organic stories stopped being told, and you had to make a checklist of what was acceptable. All the nuances of art disappeared, and shouldn't it be about talent? Shouldn't it be about merit or capability or effective storytelling or emotional presence? You got to wonder, what's the point of acting school and putting this time into developing the craft if that doesn't matter anymore? We aren't able.
Now, there's a book I recall by Ben Shapiro called Primetime Propaganda, and he really outlines the bias as he first saw it in Hollywood when he was really young. I wanted to ask you, when did you first notice a clear ideological bias in that industry?
Yeah, I noticed that as soon as I should say I moved to Los Angeles when I was 18, but I was paying attention to Hollywood, far into my youth. So I was watching, anyone who watched the Academy Awards would see various actors get up there and speak some sort of social justice during their acceptance speech from time to time. So I was always aware of it. But it didn't become sort of violent until the last few years, meaning we were allowed to think differently. We just all kept our voices to ourselves. When Obama came out and ran for office was the real definitive moment where if you didn't agree with what was his slogan? I think his slogan was like, yes, we can. Mm-hmm. Yes, we can. And something about hope. And I remember saying to a friend who had I had friends who actually worked on the artwork for it. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. But nope, not, hope. I was like, I don't think so. I just don't buy it, And it wasn't that I was politically distinct in one way or another, but having been raised in the environment I was in, and also paying so close attention to acting, which is really a barometer of liars or truth tellers, that person, Obama, and subsequently Hillary Clinton and George Bush, for that matter, all reek of inauthenticity and that they were snake salesmen. That's how I took it. But if you said that, then you were looked at really quite poorly, Mm-hmm. That was when it started to get really. Before that, nobody cared. At that moment, as an actor, you were supposed to be on the side of the Democrat.
Now, was there a tipping point that you can remember where something happened or you saw or read something where somebody said something to you where you said, I need to start speaking out now, I need to start going against the grain?
Yes. So in my youth, and I've spoken about this a little bit while I was in Hollywood, I would, here and there try to put out, things that mattered to me. To me, coming again from the background I came from, Second Amendment right to bear arms was very important and very frowned upon in Los Angeles, even though everyone's private security was loaded, but and that many people in their homes were as well. But and also obviously in film and television, that's action-packed films. No one's carrying around water guns, they're guns. So I would put out subtle messages or not so subtle messages about my support for 2A. But the tipping point was this year, and it's really quite a shame that it took me so long, but all in God's timing and all in God's plan. What happened was we were all, locked down, watching our world be destroyed, watching the Constitution and all of our rights being ripped away, watching our businesses be burnt to the ground by domestic terrorists, and half the country being like, well, it's social justice, they deserve it. And it was really disheartening in my industry to see, really from the acting standpoint, outside of James Woods and I don't know, maybe Scott Baio, who I never paid much attention to, not that there's anything wrong with him, but at least from my age demographic, it was a completely non-existent message. Like, hey guys, maybe we don't burn down our country. Maybe we don't tear down statues. Maybe there's another way to go about this. Just maybe, not even like, no, this is wrong. Just maybe. And that wasn't even being said. And it was a boiling point as the more I looked into it. And, I'm very new to this. Many people have been at this for a very long time, but I was compelled to understand further and further. I started ordering more books and asking more questions and listening to various voices and be like, wow, all those things I had inklings of understandings about and just small intuitions about people who were corrupt and things that I sort of felt like I was putting together became validated through other people's experiences and messages as well. And I felt like I had to do something. I had to, because of what I understood as my industry was sort of this false mirror held up to society, ideally for the sake of good. Here's some morals that we could live by. Here's some character-driven stories that we can create, narratives that will compel us as Americans to become more wonderful human beings, stronger human beings. That's what I thought the industry was about. And I found out that it was the absolute furthest from my perception it could possibly be. So I had to speak out against it and sort of shatter the spell that I saw occurring.
Are you sort of forced into one of these mythical Hollywood conservative enclaves? Do those exist? Is it a part of surviving the industry in terms of professionally and not being able to speak out? Is that the sort of situation it is there?
Yeah, so I heard there was a group called Friends of Bill. Friends of Bill. Friends of Abe. Friends of Bill. Yeah,
I think Friends of Bill W is AA.
It is. That exists too. But that's actually a lot less frowned upon participating in than Friends of Abe. But yeah, I'd heard of this group, and it was, the idea of being a Republican never appealed to me. I just never liked identifying. I always liked the Constitution. I felt like that represented me well. And so I never felt like I needed to group up with a group of people but what happened was when I did speak out and I thought I was going to have to do it all by myself, right? I was the only one doing it. I found out I was so naive and that there were so many other people speaking out, had been speaking out long before me. And then there was this, big MAGA movement in California, which was mind blowing. The idea of California even in the slightest being red was so unheard of. And people were on the streets in Beverly Hills by the thousands. And it wasn't just the streets of people. And I'm specifically referring to the MAGA rallies that we would have on our own on the weekends, every weekend. it wasn't just the people standing on the corner with signs. It was also the cars driving by that had absolutely nothing to do with it, showing their support. So this was a big movement. And it just showed me like how silly it was for me or anyone else to be so, I guess, scared or timid to speak out about something they believe in.
Yeah, that's along the lines of what I wanted to ask you next. Once you're speaking out about your beliefs, as I believe everyone should, are you getting backlash? Are you getting praise? Is it life as usual?
No, it's definitely no. Life no longer has a life as usual component to it. Life is nothing like it once was, and I don't think. I think we all aspire for normalcy, but I don't think that we will never regain that, at least in our lifetime. There's so much to be fought against the tyranny that's going on right now. They're not going to give up, and we're not going to give up. But to your point, I started to see the cracks in Hollywood, years before I spoke out. In fact, I put myself in a position in 2000, I believe it was like 18, 19, where I had already let go of my agents and managers. I had been hearing for at least 7 years at that point that I couldn't get work because I was white and everything was going too diverse. And it wasn't just the actors. It was writers, directors, producers, crew. It was everybody. And on the one hand, at first, and I said this in the PragerU video, everyone, for the majority of the people were like, yes, finally, this is happening. Okay, the pendulum has swung from one direction to the other. Finally, diversity is a thing. I didn't get the opportunity to say this in the PragerU, but just years prior, I was up for a role that would be in an interracial relationship. And they said America wasn't ready for that, which was just so bogus and backward, and so it was really refreshing at first to see, wow, this is like a new movement, diversity, like not just all white people. I would sit in cast and be like, damn, this is the whitest crew I've ever seen, or whatever, whitest, whatever. So it was awesome to see that, but then to come to find out that it was an inorganic process intentionally designed to control narrative, to create social awakening that was just not so much an awakening, but a spell. I keep using this word, but it's programming, right? So not only are you not supposed to say anything, and we were all talking to one another quietly, secretly, without, not publicly. So writers were talking to other writers. And what was unfortunate was that even say Black directors. I know a black director friend who was speaking with a white director friend, and the white director friend's like, I can't get any work because I'm white. And the Black director friend's like, I can only get Black content films because I'm Black. And it's just, again, this goes to the inorganicness. This is not how humans evolve. It's all contrived and really mechanical in this bizarre, icky way. I forget where we started with that rant, but here we are.
In that same video, you mentioned how like the Oscars were really white for a long time. I've always kind of thought it was odd, though, how Hollywood complains about the lack of diversity and everything, but as you share with us, it's them doing the casting. They're the ones greenlighting the project. From start to finish. The executives make their notes. I'm basing this off of my information from Entourage, by the way. The executives make the notes, and it has to be changed. So don't they have the responsibility to actually make these changes that they're complaining about?
Yeah, I don't know who gave the final okay, because even in Entourage, it wasn't like the creators weren't willing to have a diverse cast. It was Hollywood, and I'll tell you exactly what it is. Hollywood doesn't make as much money as it used to in America. It makes most of its money overseas. Overseas, say China, they are the ones who don't want to see diverse. They are the ones who control the narrative of what the story or the plot is. They want it to fit in sync with their sort of communist country ideals. Also, they're not very fond of people who have various shades of skin color outside of their own. And that's just a fact. I heard that over and over again. The reason this won't last, is what I heard initially, is that China doesn't want to see diversity. So it's going to move back. And then that ultimately, I think that people misunderstood really what China wanted to see destruction of America at all costs. So whatever that looked like.
Don't tell that to Fast and the Furious. Now I want to transition to Arizona. Audit Speaker of the House. Tell everybody what type of work you're doing and what's going on over there.
Sure. So, I'm doing something that's pretty unpopular. A lot of people are fed up, and a lot of people spend a number of time complaining about it, and then ultimately are looking for direction on how to make change. And we're under this illusion for the last decade and several decades that there's some sort of leader who is going to help us and take us to this next level of liberty that's been taken from us, and fight back against the tyranny of what's going on. And that's just not the case. And our Republican Party and Democrat Party, they are actually a uniparty, and they work in conjunction with each other. So what happens is you have these sort of wishing wells of hope that you vote into. And ultimately, as we've seen, they go into office, and they do absolutely very little to represent our values and our interests. And we've seen this time and time again. So when I say that I'm doing something that's a little unpopular, at the moment, I'm working with what's called the Arizona Patriot Party. And that was discussed months back, a Patriot Party. Trump had mentioned that. And many people were like, yeah, heck yeah, we're sick of this. Let's see it. And then there was sort of this pushback. Well, a Patriot Party would only, split the vote. And it's just, that's too simplistic of a way to look at it. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Well, we're done playing by the Republican rules. We're done playing by the Democrat rules. We're going to represent ourselves. We're going to stand up. We're going to go in the streets. We're going to scare the living daylight by doing a recall, collecting 24,000 signatures in the district of Rusty Bowers, and let you know that we're serious, that we can be effective, we can create effective change, and we're not waiting around twiddling our thumbs for these so-called representatives to do it for us. And so, they've been at this, and again, I say this all the time. I'm not trying to take credit for anyone else's work in any way, shape, or form. I don't pretend to know more than I do. I'm in a constant state of learning. And I think that's an important place to be. And I want to be a representative for any mother or individual out there who's like, I don't know how to go about this process. I don't know what to do. I don't either. I just take the right next indicated action. And, I sure up on my values. I speak it, confidently, willing to be, educated if I say the wrong thing. So the point being is when you speak on that sort of level of truth, the right people at the right place, the right time come into your life. So I was very adamant. It started by getting rid of masks, realizing that I had to be a part of what was happening in local politics and state politics. Arizona, Patriot Party is about putting Arizona first. So that's ensuring our constitutional values, to ensure that our education is not riddled with critical race theory, that, we don't have to put our children through child abuse for non-scientifically proven reasons to wear masks. And we're being bold, and we're participating from the community level up. So this Patriot Party was working for 4 months straight on this recall in a specific district that Rusty Bowers has a very strong Mormon community, family members in. And just in that alone, in the context of what we had to, push through, we had so many people ready and willing to sign. And that should speak a lot to this man, to say that these people are not fans of you. And there are family members and there are community members who you claim to represent, who are sick and tired of your BS and want you out. And so what happened was we collected the signatures. We had a very small cushion. And as soon as they got there, they rejected it. because of a technicality. So as soon as they started the recall process, Rusty Bauer, the government in state of Arizona, put forth a bill that would essentially no longer allow for a recall ever to take place again. So what happened was in that, right? I mean, it's laughable. It's really like, it's either like you end up going to therapy, crying about it, or you laugh it off and just, it's just proof again of the corruption. This guy is happy to take our votes and do something antithesis of what we actually want. He was against the audit. He was against election integrity. I mean, there's so many things over and over again that they say they're going to do and they're don't, and we're done. We're done. So yes, it was a total bummer to get that, slammed down. Sorry, we're throwing this out. All this work that you all put into it for 4 months. On a technicality. Now, the technicality itself was that there wasn't a piece of paper attached to the 2,000 pieces of paper saying what the audit was for. And to my understanding, this was part of the revised law that would now not revised bill that would basically not ensure of a recall ever to happen again. So it's being discussed with lawyers at this point. But I think more than anything, the message should be received to the Republican Party, who, are rhinos, that we're not taking it. We're not taking it.
I think a lot of what you're saying is speaking to a lot of people across the continent right now who are upset with, in Canada, the majority of the premiers, which same as governors for those in America, were elected as conservatives. And a lot of people are disappointed with how they've basically done. I can think of one thing. They've come out against that social media bill that is going around the internet right now. That's about all I can think of that they've come out against in the last year and a half. And if what you're saying I'm taking correctly, it sounds to me like people just need to put in the effort and put the feet on the ground to local politics, state, provincial politics, just to get things going. At the very least, put a thread out there of counteraction, of competition. To these people who are sitting in office and maybe not doing anything. Is it as easy as that might sound, even if it is a lot of nitty gritty?
No, it's as easy as it sounds. It's as easy as you've just laid it out. And of course, it's a little bit uncomfortable or very uncomfortable because it's the difference of waiting around for your Republican representative to do something and never doing it, and actually going out there in the streets and collecting signatures or, putting together a collective message of what is important to you and people in your district and your community, and voicing it very clearly. Now, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well, but we've never had so many people show up to school board meetings or city council meetings and voicing, and at least if not getting the opportunity to voice, but at least being a face of disgust, right? Disgust. I'm not satisfied with what's going on, and you will hear from me as this continues to go forward type of message. And of course, when we say fight, we're not talking obviously about violence. Please don't anyone take this out of context.
No, and even though your Instagram has a lot of self-defense, I've seen some of that. Yeah. I'm very impressed. Yeah. I think you should go on Steven Crowder or something and do some jiu-jitsu with him. I want to move behind the paywall now so we can talk about lockdowns, masks in schools, and medical silencing. So we're going to go to the rebelnewsplus.com paywall. You can sign up there for $8 a month, everybody. If you want to see the rest of the interview, please go there now. Thanks for watching another episode of Andrew Says. If you want exclusive content, go to rebelnewsplus.com, where we talk about topics we're not allowed to show you on social media. Danger.